It's a great pleasure to welcome to the program this week Dr. Khaled Nageti. He is Vice President of the World Association for Small and Medium Enterprises, SMEs. Dr. Nageti, it's good to have you with us on the program,
Thank you.
sir.
Pleasure is all mine.
The definition for SMEs may vary. A business can be categorized as micro, small, or medium, depending on a number of factors. Say the revenue of the startup. What definition is there for SMEs?
Well, definition, we don't have a solid definition in Egypt so far that we can say we are standing on a solid ground regarding the definition when it is concerned. However, international-wise, definitions have so many factors. It depends on the culture of the country and so on. Some of them are defined based on the total revenue or total sales revenue of the company. Some of them is defined by the amount that you would like to borrow from financial institutions. Some of them would be defined on the capital, how much money has been invested on the company. And some of them are defined based on how many workers and employees are within the company, legally within the company.
So how do we distinguish between small and medium enterprises?
The only institution that has a solid definition is the Social Funds for Development. They have a solid definition for SMEs. However, this definition is not deployed by when it comes to banks and other financial institutions. So basically, when you deal with them, with the social fund, you would have a certain definition. But when you deal, even though with the same amount that you would like to borrow with banks, you would have a totally different definition. Banks in Egypt, each one of them, since they don't have a solid definition, each bank would have his own definition according to his own internal policy, which is a big mistake.
Can Egypt take the international definition for SMEs and apply it here?
There is no specific international definition. As I said before, there's so many factors, depends on the culture and the government and the country itself. However, I understand that the ministry is working on a solid definition in Egypt, which would be raised to public within the next few weeks. I have heard a little bit of rumors about the definition, which I think would be okay for the time being for Egypt.
You are calling for an independent organization to be responsible for SMEs. Why is that so important?
Not only independent, but independent and governmental institution. It has to be a governmental institution because in all the countries that have ever visited regarding SMEs, like South Africa, Germany, Brazil, India, and so on, they have an independent governmental institution that is focused only on SMEs. What the government has done lately to engage the SMEs activities to the Ministry of Trade, it's a good as a start. However, I don't think it will bring out the best out of the SMEs. SMEs, they have different culture, they have different factors to be dealing with. So SMEs had to have their own governmental institution that could be transformed in 5 years maybe from now to a ministry, its own ministry. That's the way I see it, and that's the way the World Association for SMEs see it in Egypt.
What privileges, if any, are there for SMEs in Egypt? What is being done to promote SMEs?
Incentives, I don't think there is. There is a lot. However, if you cannot define what is SMEs, how could you define who gets the incentives? So the problem is not the incentives. The problem is that who is SMEs? How can I categorize this company as SME to get the benefit? That's the main issue. That's the main problem. As long as we do not have a definition, I cannot talk about incentives for SMEs. And it makes sense. The only institution that has solid incentives is the social funds because they have their own definition by law. But for banks and financial institutions, there's none.
What are the authorities then doing to promote SMEs?
Promotion of SMEs, well, we've been attending a lot of conferences over the last 7-8 years, SME slogan, and we have SMEs, the promotion of SMEs, but realistically nothing has been done, and I don't blame the current government because, excuse me, because the political changes over the last 3 to 4 years would really prohibit anyone to make solid changes, because it's not only just like that decision, it has to be passed from the government itself legally. So I don't blame the current government. However, I put a lot of hope on the current government to change this idea, which I think will be happening soon.
You tend to think that a successful SME ends with financing rather than begins with financing. Can you elaborate?
Yes, basically SMEs first thing, first thing they do, they look for finance, then they look for the project. So I have a say always say which comes first, project or finance. Uh, Finance is available at banks and the social funds and other financial institutions. However, it's not the right for everyone to have it. So first you have to have the project, you have to have feasibility study, you have to prepare yourself as a business owner that you can run this type of product, then you look for the finance. Only then financial institutions can lend you. However, if you go to any financial institution with no solid and clear idea about what you're trying to do with the fund, there's no fund is going to be issued here.
Access to finance is one of the biggest challenges facing business owners. What are the other challenges?
Finance over the last 2 or 3 years have been categorized as one of the most important issues regarding SMEs. However, again, I don't think it's a major problem. It's one of the problems, but it's not the most important problem, because now we're dealing with banks, we're dealing with leasing companies, we're dealing with factoring companies, we're dealing with angel investors. The problem is SMEs, when they need money, they only know banks. They are not aware of other and alternative financial organizations that can help. For example, if you need, if someone is making a new factory and they need equipment, they go to a bank. However, if you go to a leasing company, it will be much easier and much faster and less when it comes to cost-wise. It's less than banks as far as interest is concerned and so on. But you have to know what leasing is to be able to approach them. So again, it's only about marketing and promotions. You have to market your products. As far as financial institutions, you have to show yourself that, hey, I'm available with this financial tool. Only then they would approach you for finance.
If someone who's watching this program right now would decide to start their own business, where do they start? What are the steps that they should take?
First of all, they have to study the project really good. They have to have before they form the company. They have to do due diligence for the project, small due diligence. I'm not talking about big corporations. However, due diligence and feasibility study for the project before you engage in it, it's a plus. You have to know if you are qualified when it comes to see, the problem with the SMEs is only one man show. The owner is the lawyer, the accountant, the collector, everything, and he thinks no one would understand my business better than me. It's a wrong idea. Yes, a lot of people will understand your business better than you. So we have to deploy the corporate governance with its minimum levels for SMEs to be able to start their business.
Sometimes business owners prefer to stay in the informal sector to reduce costs, to evade taxes. Do you believe there will be resistance to moving them to the formal sector?
Well, the small SMEs that have been raised for the last 10, 15 or 20 years to work as the informal sector, I don't think it will be easy for them to change this idea because they've been raised this way. However, as I said in my lecture, we need to, I'm asking the government to focus on